Light on, what's exciting in Brighton? And who's doing inspiring things in Manchester and Sheffield? All will be revealed. Light on, a journey of discovery through Bristol, Hull and Coventry. What's cool in Liverpool, you'll see. Scintillating cities and stunning countryside. Strap in and enjoy the ride. Light on, with Hazel as your guide. Light on, strap in, enjoy the ride. Light on, with Hazel as your guide. Light on, strap in, enjoy the ride. Light on, with Hazel as your guide. Light on, strap in, enjoy the ride. Light on, with Hazel as your guide. Light on.
My name is hazelmillichamp, and this is an episode on the Light On series where I speak to Kim and Adam Strickson about all sorts of different things that they do. They're a refugee arts charity. They have a project at the moment called 6 Million and Friendships Through Puppets, where they make 12-foot high puppets that you will be able to go and see this weekend on the 6th of November. They're a refugee arts charity. They work with refugees, asylum seekers, artists and families to exchange and express stories of the Holocaust, genocides and contemporary persecution at home and abroad through creative projects. The Weeping Sisters looks like just such a great event. And yeah, if you can, get yourself out there, have a listen and see what you think. So for this episode of the Light On series, I have Kim and Adam Strickson come to speak to me. Hello, both of you.
Hi, Hazel.
Hello.
Thank you very much for agreeing to speak to me. So you've come to tell me about the project called 6 Million Plus One. Can you explain what that is?
Well, the charitable organisation is called 6 Million Plus, and basically we're doing a project at the moment called Friendship Through Puppets.
Friendship Through Puppets?
Yes.
And so what is that all about?
Okay, so in the past we have, over the last 4 or 5 years, created 12-foot high puppets. We started with 2 and then made another 2 and another one and another one. And they all refer to a particular genocide that's happened in the world or area of persecution. And they also relate to people that we have living in Kirklees and in Leeds. So the refugee communities that we have in our areas, they kind of relate to all of those. So we started by making a puppet of a Jewish woman from the Holocaust, and we named her Kitty. And she came out on procession with another puppet called Hava, who represents the Bosnian community that suffered in Sbrenica in Bosnia. The 8,000 men and boys were killed. So the two of them were the first to come out on a procession in the streets of Huddersfield, leading to the town hall for a Holocaust Memorial Day event. So it was a way of really getting people who wouldn't normally come to that kind of event to take notice on the streets.
Yeah.
And it did that because people followed it and were curious and were amazed to see these big puppets. They're called the Weeping Sisters, so they're all women, and they're all weeping over the loss of people in these different genocides. And really, they've been made by artists who work with us, but also local people. So we get people to help us make the clay molds for the head and the hands, and we have an artist who makes the costumes for the puppets with people. So everybody has a hand in it, and that's everybody together, really. So we've got people from 14, 15 different countries as well, just local people in Batley, Dewsbury, Huddersfield, Leeds coming together. So we've been making these. We've now got 6, and recently we've made the 7th, and the Friendship Through Puppets project has been about making a Syrian sister. And this one's quite different because although it refers to the terrible events of the war that they've suffered in Syria, and there's still unrest and terrible destruction and not any kind of good way of life yet back in Syria, And we've got Syrians living here who have been affected by all of that. But we're looking at culture, and we're looking at history, and we're looking at music. And so this sister has a kind of joyful, positive aspect as well as the sadness. So she's able to move and dance as well as walk and weep, which the others have done.
Wow.
So that was a long way of telling you, but it helps to give the context. So she's our seventh and probably final weeping sister. So this coming Saturday, there'll be 7 of them out on a parade in Dewsbury and Batley for two events with music and with, again, it's all sort of local participants creating this event with us.
And do you think it's helpful in the way, obviously, for the people who get involved and who have their own stories and have connections to these puppets, of course, and that sense of community, but also in the wider community, do you think it helps people to be able to relate to these stories?
I think so. I think it's two things. It's both local people and residents, neighbourhoods, hearing stories at first hand, because obviously you see stuff on the news, and often there's so much negative stuff, isn't there, and terrible stuff on the news, and it's hard to kind of feel any connection with it. But if you actually meet people from those places and they're telling you individual stories, and this can be over, getting their hands in the clay and making something, and people are talking and listening and also saying, oh gosh, that resonates with me because of something I experienced, and there's a bit of sharing goes on. And then for some of the refugees and asylum seekers, some of them have said it's a kind of, it helps with the healing process because they're able to talk about it, but in a positive environment, in a positive context. And they make friends, and we share food from different cultures. That's part of it as well, and music. And so it's a safe space for people to share often those traumatic stories and memories, and then make something positive to share with a wider audience.
I think it's worth saying as well that we make a lot of our work outdoors as well as indoors, and we make it outdoors because it's not a safe space, because passers-by and shoppers in Dewsbury and Batley on Saturday won't necessarily be sympathetic to refugees. So there's an educational role in what we do, and a witness role to say we do welcome refugees, we work with them, they're part of our community and they're part of our creativity in West Yorkshire. So I think the public witness is important. When we do work in all sorts of ways, it's not just the puppets. We've also done a lot of online film work and during lockdown, and we've done street work in Dewsbury before. We did a show called Messages from Home, which was performed by refugees and local people in the town centre about their experience of being a refugee. But in a way, we're kind of moving beyond that into more the things that we share and more about living here as well.
I think that lots of people from the refugee community as well, they've said to us, can we, it's good to sort of share what's happened to us in the context, and so people know about why we're here in the first place. But please, can we do the happier things? Share stuff about cooking and gardening and growing things and music and sewing and fashion and all those things that people naturally want to share and together. So it was interesting, I think, when we were in lockdown, and rather than everything coming to a full stop, actually it got really interesting because we did a project that was totally kind of managed on WhatsApp with people making things at home and photographing them, and then we made a film of it. And part of that WhatsApp experience was people just sharing folk stories, children's stories that they remembered as a child, and somebody else saying, oh, we've got a version of that in our country.
Oh, amazing.
It was great. And cooking, and people were posting what they were making that day to eat, and their gardens.
And how they couldn't get to sleep.
Oh yeah, sleeplessness.
There was a lot of that, wasn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, because I was aware that trying to manage this WhatsApp group, that there were people still texting each other at like 1 and 2 in the morning, you know,
Oh,
and it was just marvellous. It was just such a closeness between people that we didn't really expect. Well, that was nice.
and it's great that you were able to keep that going, like you say, during lockdown, because you know that just put paid to so many different projects and things that were happening, didn't it?
Well, it did. We were aware that, you know, everybody in the country was feeling isolated and a bit of at a loss, weren't they? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, suddenly not being allowed to go out, not see your family, not see friends, and trying to find ways of keeping in touch. And we were acutely aware that a lot of people we work with, and I'm not just talking about the refugees here either, there are individuals as well that we knew were vulnerable, and you know, the isolation would be really, really awful for them. So we were desperate to keen, you know, to say how can we do something that still holds everybody together, and that, you know, keeps them positive, and us as well. You know,
Yeah,
we're
of
part
course.
And one of the things we found is that we were actually, you know, it's a positive side, though we wouldn't want to continue working in the same way, is that we reach more people. So our video project, The Small Contentments, where people were making different things to remember Srebrenica 95 and the massacre there, reached over 15,000 people.
Wow.
Whereas if we are out in the town hall or in the streets, we might reach
200 or
300, 400 at the most. So
Yeah.
to reach 15,000 people was definitely an advantage. Having said that, we, like everybody else, we want to combine filming and digital work, but the face-to-face work is so important. It's so important for people's confidence and companionship. So we're very glad to start it again, really. Although we filmed the Small Contentments project in people's gardens and things, and rehearsed shadow puppet shows
on
their doorsteps, where just standing 5 meters away. It's great to actually be in the same room, because you've got a very big room to work in that's provided by Creative Scene in Dewsbury. So it's been wonderful to actually be face to face with 40 or so people again.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah,
and how did you both? Sorry, carry on, Kim.
I was just going to say, although it's a lot of this sounds all very serious and sad and traumatic, there's a lot of fun involved. So, you know, all the getting together and the making things together, and the food, the sharing of food and everything is all very, very warm, and, you know, has moments of humour and laughter as well as the sharing of the sadder stories.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I think there's something really powerful about, like you discussed, the people sharing, you know, folk stories, and, you know, finding commonalities and the differences, and the sharing of food and culture. I think that's all a great positive thing, isn't it? And it helps everybody get along together.
It certainly does.
And how did you both get involved in the project in the first place?
Do you mean
That's
with the
trust?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long story.
Oh, it is a long story.
I mean, the work goes back really to the work goes back to
about 2002,
2002, 3, 4. Those, when Kirtleys Council, which Kim was working for then, in the museums, were commemorating Holocaust Memorial Day, and there was the idea that Kim and Richard, her boss, had really to collect 6 million buttons to commemorate the Holocaust, which came from seeing a project in America where they collected 6 million paper clips and put them in a railway carriage in the Midwest of America to remember the Holocaust and everybody that was murdered during that. So the idea was to get local people involved in donating buttons and thinking about what the Holocaust meant, and it really took off. And there was an installation created by an artist from Leeds, Antonia Stowe, and a film that accompanied it, which filmed our encounters between young unaccompanied refugees, asylum seekers from places like Albania and Zimbabwe, with older Holocaust survivors. In 2005, at that time when we made the film, then we still had probably 12 or 13 Holocaust survivors that we could work with in West Yorkshire. Now we're down to maybe 3 or 4. So that's been a change over the years, and that work continued, to cut a very long story short, until 2014, when Kirtleys, because of local authority cuts, decided they couldn't commemorate Holocaust Memorial Day anymore.
Oh.
And put civic money into it. So those of us that have been working on this relationship with refugees and Holocaust survivors and local people decided, well, we couldn't let this work stop. So we formed a charitable trust in 2014, which is 7 years ago. And we've been busy ever since, stumbling from one project to another. We have no revenue funding and no office or anything like that, but we raise the money project by project, and to be honest, rely on a lot of volunteer time
and goodwill
from skilled artists as well as volunteers.
Yeah.
Well, it's fantastic that you get all that help, isn't it? You know, obviously people recognise what an important thing it is that you do. Yeah,
I think so. And I think it's become, the strap line of the charity has changed over the years, and you might have seen it. It's now, you know, stories of refuge and projects of hope, rather than it just being rooted. Well, it is still rooted in that Holocaust work that we did initially, but it's far more than that now. It's everything really to do with any kind of discriminatory behaviour or racism, or you know, the projects are all about facing up to that and thinking seriously about where that kind of behaviour leads. You know, and that thinking back to Germany, it was the kind of scapegoating and blame of people that led to the Holocaust. So we have to be very careful about how we treat each other. So it's still rooted in that, but there's there's a lot of variety now in the work that we do and we're being asked to do. And I have to say, Adam's just said, you know, that Kirklees came to a point where they said, you know, it's an important memorial, but we just haven't got the funds to fund the project work or the events anymore. But recently, they've been extremely supportive, and
under lockdown, certainly.
Yeah, and have, you know, been working in partnership with us, as has more recently Bradford Council as well, and Calderdale Leeds have shown some interest, particularly in doing something, you know, digital together, which is great to have that sort of West Yorkshire framework where we're all talking to each other and thinking about things together.
Yeah, definitely, that is great, and for you to be able to get the word out is excellent. Can I ask, when do you think you get people involved in the project through and involved in your work through word of mouth, when that, you know, so you get people who end up here for whatever reason from different countries, and are you sort of having to keep your eye out on what's happening in the world all the time and how things are changing?
Well, yeah, I mean, it does depend. You know, we've been working here for a long time, so the communities have changed a lot. And, you know, at one time we were working with a lot of Kurdish people. At other times we were working with Burundian people. Recently, obviously, we've been doing more work with Syrian people, and Sudanese. We do need to keep an eye out. I mean, it is word of mouth, but it isn't just word of mouth. It's also recommendations and talking to workers and organisations like Dash and Sanctuary Kirklees that were working in the community. So it's networking, I guess, to use the word as well as word of mouth.
It's keeping in touch with there are very good local, particularly in Huddersfield, actually, really good local refugee support groups. Sometimes they're church led or faith led, and they're brilliant. So there are quite a few of those, and everybody, you know, kind of knows what we're doing, and we know what they're doing, and they're very good at telling us, well, you know, recently we've had a lot of people from Afghanistan arriving, and they've got very little to do, and they're looking for meaningful activities, you know, so anything like that. And Kirklees,
having said that, the hardest bit is probably getting local people involved. Much harder than getting the refugees involved, because clearly the refugees, without beating about the bush, have got time. So a really important part of our work, which ties in with other work that Kim does in relation to schools and education, is to try and get people from Batley, from Dewsbury, from Huddersfield that are not from a refugee background involved in working together. We're very much not a refugee arts organisation. We're about working with all ages and integrating people together from different backgrounds. So although we might focus on particular countries for a certain time, that's a movable feast. So if we're journeying in different ways, both around Kirklees in different places, and indeed further afield to Leeds and Bradford, but also around the world of all the people that have come here.
Somebody said, there was a nice quote somebody said at one of the workshops recently, I love the way people keep coming back, and what she meant by that was that, you know, you'd expect, say, Bosnian people to come if you're making something that's to do with Bosnia, but then you might not necessarily expect them to come back if you start looking at Burundi or you start looking at Syria, you know, but they do. It's a kind of core group of people from lots of different places that keep coming back to work together because they're enjoying working together.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I imagine you must be constantly learning things all the time. You know, when you're meeting all these new people and hearing all
Constantly
of these...
being challenged as well as learning things.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we have it all the time of people saying, well, you haven't got that quite right. And, you know, and it is hard, isn't it? Because there's a danger that as facilitators and also the artists we work with, there is a danger that you can drive the projects and become kind of condescending about, you know, what they're about and the messages you're trying to get across. And you have to step back and also say to the people you're working with, the communities you're working with, how would you do this? What's the best way of portraying this or representing this? What is it you want to say? You know, and tell us and let them lead that. So with this Syrian latest one, we spent a whole workshop just sitting together, nicely spaced as well as the distance, and saying, okay, tell us about Syria.
With a group of Syrian
refugees. With a group of Syrian refugees at the heart of that, but also the others as well, and saying, you know, what sort of figure should this Syrian sister be? What's she like? Who is she? What's she related to? What's she communicating? And what else about Syria should be in and amongst this? So very, very interesting. So they were talking about, you know, history, culture, poets, singers, filmmakers and music, as well as looking at this queen, 3rd century queen called Zenobia, and how she was a radical and how she was a woman, obviously, and embraced people, tolerated and was the word that's used, but embraced people from different cultures, and as a kind of role model for women in Syria now because of that strength of character. So we ended up,
I don't know if she's a role model. She's a symbol of Syrian resistance,
yes.
women's resistance, especially. I mean, there's all sorts of myths around her, but she's become a contemporary symbol of women's resistance and Syrian solidarity, I guess.
So they, in the end, they were saying, shall we make this puppet Zenobia-like? Because you know, she's a good image. So that's what we went for. And our costume designer, who usually uses, you know, a lot of bright colours in the costumes, has been advised by the Syrians to keep it muted, to keep it not in your face. And they asked there would be some flashes of colour, but were very specific about the kind of fabrics and the colours that she should use. So all that's really interesting.
It really is interesting, isn't it? Because it's like when you were talking earlier, like about news coverage, and you know, you see a country like Syria and you're seeing it being attacked, and it, you know, obviously it's a war zone, and then you know, when you do some reading around and you look at the beautiful architecture in Syria and the history, you kind of don't, you're not sort of given that side of things on the news, which again can divorce sort of the reality of what's actually happening in that country. So I think it's fantastic that you get to, you know, hear all these fascinating aspects of a culture that you wouldn't hear about.
Yeah,
I think you also see the image of refugees as distressed people as well.
Yeah.
And of course they are distressed, but we need to remember that, you know, the Syrians that we work with, we've got a ex-professor of agriculture, you know, people that are chemists, people that are doctors, people that are university lecturers, as well as people that are market gardeners or you know, bus drivers. So there's a big variety. So there's no such thing as a Syrian refugee in a sense of being like a distressed person. They come from different classes, different backgrounds, and have left Syria for different reasons, all related to the war and the conflict there, of course. But some of them have made their own way. Some of them have come under the government quota, and some of them resettlement scheme, and some of them have been here for longer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they came out earlier. So in a way, Syria is quite interesting because it's a sort of parallel to the Second World War and the Holocaust, with the Jewish community, with the richer Jewish people getting out, from the late 1920s and the early 1930s, and then children, and then eventually after the war, then taking other Jewish refugees. But I mean, there's also the parallel is that there was a lot of resistance to taking Jewish refugees, both by the government and by the British people, in the 1940s, and we know that there's a lot of resistance to taking refugees now. We experience it, when we're outside and we're performing, and we experience it in our daily lives. So in a way, the job of the education, the kind of center of what we're doing, doesn't change from resisting fascism in the 1930s to being in 2021 and trying to make the UK a place of welcome.
That must be very difficult.
Yeah, the work goes on, and you can feel it, and it's always a little bit risky, especially when we do things outside. We're always aware that there could be people who may shout things or want to get in the way of what we're doing. It hasn't happened yet, touch wood, but there's always that possibility.
Well, it's happened individually. It's happened with comments and things, and engaging with people. But
I think the group of people we work with, the Syrians in this case, this time, are saying we're just happy and proud to be doing this, and we want the message to be out there that we're proud of our culture and our history, and we wouldn't be here unless there was a very good reason for leaving.
I think that could be
an amazing place,
Yeah, and do they feel generally welcome? I mean, no, I obviously can't speak for everybody, but do things like this.
I think they feel welcome in the group that we are.
Yeah.
I think they feel very, very unwelcome when they arrive in the UK, and they're treated very badly. And obviously some of the people we work with have been in the detention centres.
Gosh, yeah.
Some of them have been attempted to deport them. So I think they feel very grateful to people in England that they see, but they're very shocked and surprised, to be honest, by the system and how difficult it is to become a refugee with leave to remain in the UK. So there's a yes and no is the answer to that, really.
Other than people who have arrived via the resettlement scheme, who have nothing but praise for that,
of course.
And that kind of relates back to in our case to Kirklees Council as well, who do a really good job of making people welcome and making sure they're safe and they have what they need. And even, the council struggles sometimes to reconcile that ethos of welcome with what's actually possible from the government level. So, but they do a really good job as best as they can. There's some really good people.
I think we can say they mostly feel welcome in Kirklees. Not necessarily
true.
In the UK, but in
Kirklees. That's true. And I'm very aware of it. And with another hat on, another project that I do, I take refugees into schools to tell their stories to children so that they understand why people are here. And there's a whole project that goes with that. But one day I was going to the station. We were travelling on the train to a school, and outside the station there was one of the what's called the welcome mentors, welcome buddies from Kirklees, who had a group of people together, and we're all off on a walk and having a picnic together. It was in the summer, and it was something they could do, even when we were still having to be socially distanced. And everybody looked really, really excited about going on the walk and being out together. So Kirklees do good stuff, and it's people like that we work with and talk to as well, so that we know who's out there and who's likely to want to get involved.
Yeah, what fantastic work for the council to be doing, because this whole, it feels like it's been forever to me, but we seem to be constantly squeezed. Everything is squeezed, and there is more and more work for charities and great people like yourselves to do.
Yeah,
Does
I
it
know.
feel does it feel hopeless sometimes, or is all the positivity that you get out of everything that you're doing? Does that balance out? Do you ever both get burnt out with everything?
Yes,
Yeah.
we do, don't we? I think we're honest.
I mean, to be honest, it's never hopeless with the people. Sometimes it's challenging and it's difficult, but we make
No, it's
great,
never hopeless.
great friendships and that. Sometimes it feels hopeless with the bureaucracy and the money and not being able to get any money to do it, and thinking we've been doing this so long and we know it's valuable and other people know it's valuable, but no, very rarely do people come to us and say, well, can you do this? Or we value the work that you do, we'd like to support it. So I think what's difficult for us is that we have to raise all the money ourselves as well on project by project basis, because we've got no revenue funding, we've got nothing to keep us going on a day-to-day basis, which is why we're so involved with volunteers. And we, to be honest, we include experienced fundraisers amongst our group, but we find it very hard because tends that half people don't see us as creative arts, which we are. We then get associated with obviously the Jewish Holocaust, and people presume we're supported by Jewish charities, which we're not at all. So there's a bit of a confused message, which is why we've been working on remaking our message with the stories of refuge projects of hope. So people are always people in authority, if you like, or with the funding bodies struggle to understand what we are, I think, because I think, oh, well, is it community work? Is it creative arts? Is it arts? Is it theatre? Is it conflict resolution? Is it neighbourhood meetings? It's and it's all those things. That's the answer, really. But that makes it difficult to put a stamp on it, if you like. And I think we struggle from that. We've been very well supported by Creative Scene in Dewsbury. Yes. Over the last few years in partnership projects, and they're providing the floor on Empire House where we're working for free until March. So we're able to store our puppets and other materials there, and it's a big space, so we can work safely with quite a lot of people with the windows open at the moment. So we do get some really good help, but we just like to have some help that goes for a year rather than 6 weeks or something, or 2 years.
That's got to be stressful.
There's the thing, it's not just Adam and I, but the artists we work with as well. And we have a sort of core of people who, well, they work for the charity and they are paid, but they give so much to it. They give far more than they're paid for usually. And we feel responsible to them as well, both financially, that they ought to be, they ought to be paid properly for the work that they do, because they are amazing and very experienced. But also all of us, we need to step back at certain points, because some of this material is quite heavy, and you sort of carry it around with you, and sometimes we just need to step back
from it, have a break from it,
and do something completely frivolous. So that's a natural thing. So in some respects, doing it project by project allows us to have to step, but when we're stepping back, we're just raising more, we're raising more money for the next one, or lobbying people for a bit more money for the next one. So it never stops.
So you might actually get some time after, of course, the 6th of November that you've both been working so hard towards. You might be able to breathe before you think of the next thing.
I hope so. I hope we breathe, but obviously Holocaust Memorial Day is January, so then we start all the preparations for that, and unlike some, I know, quite a few places across the country now do other things, but we don't see it as just an event. It's the project work that leads to it. So it's it's work going on for those few months right up to the end of January with people. So it's
kind of we've all got other jobs.
Yes, we've all got other jobs.
If we didn't all have other jobs, it wouldn't be possible.
No. Yeah. And so
we do really love doing the work. It's very rewarding and very satisfying. If we were doing it for the money, we'd have stopped long ago.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And so can you just remind everybody, what should they expect and where should they be on the 6th of November?
On Saturday. Right. The first event, both events are the same, but they're in two different places. So the first one is in Dewsbury at 11 o'clock. gathering in Market Place, Dewsbury. You won't be able to miss the puppets once they arrive. They're quite
No.
big, and there'll be a lot of drumming as well from a samba band. So it lasts probably about 45 minutes. And then we'll have a bit of lunch, put all the puppets in the van, take them all to Batley, where we'll be meeting again to start at 2:00 at Batley Market Place. And there'll be another event there, and lasting the same amount of time. So it's very simple. It's a parade of the Weeping Sisters, all 7 of them, and then there'll be a little bit on the spot where Zenobia dances, and there's a new song.
With laughing doves, which are the bird
yes.
of peace in Syria, and a stilt-walking bald-headed ibis, which is a bird from ancient Syria, really. It still exists, but is almost extinct in Syria. So there's a kind of hopeful dance with dancing laughing doves and stilt-walking ibises, and Zenobia herself as well. So it's really a very simple event, not simple to put together, but in essence, it's
we won't keep people out of the cold too long.
So I mean, obviously, it's not weather dependent. I mean, if it's raining, we carry on, but if it's not raining, it'll probably last a bit longer.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, Kim and Adam, I always ask guests 3 questions, and you are going to answer your questions on Kirklees. So the first one would be, what would you say is great about Kirklees?
Oh, well, I'd say some of the things we've just been talking about the networks of people, because, I mean, and that's everybody, as far as we're concerned. There's the council, and the departments that we work with are very supportive, especially the resettlement team, the communities team. But then all the refugee agencies and all the faith groups, all the artists as well, because there's a lot of really good arts organisations in Kirklees. So yeah, all those people really. There's a lot going on, isn't there, in Kirklees? Even during lockdown, there's still been a lot going on.
There is. Well, it's what I like about Kirklees. Obviously, it's countryside and city,
yes,
but
that as well.
and the towns, particularly the North Kirklees towns like Dewsbury and Batley, are countryside and city. So we've done lots of arts work, not with 6 million plus, but I've done lots of artwork outdoors and on bits of land around Dewsbury for years, and just finding out people's stories and bits of history, and rifling through books, second-hand books at Dewsbury Market and things like that. I'm always fascinated to find out new things about where we live. Obviously, I don't come from here. You can tell from my accent, but it's been my home for a long time, far longer than anywhere else in my life, really. And I think
it's fascinating.
It's just such a fascinating place.
I have to tell you, Hazel, that I used to work for Kirklees Museums, the sort of community bit, the outreach bit of museums, which was a great job, and one of the things I was asked to go into a particular area of Dewsbury in Thornhill and Thornhill Lees, which is just about a 2-mile radius, and we were looking at the history of that place, and it was just incredible what had happened in terms of all the different industries that local families work for within that 2-mile radius.
All the different races.
Just amazing. And, because I thought when I first went, I thought, oh, industry, that's not really my bag. But actually, I was totally fascinated. And that was done through families telling us their family histories and pulling together all those different memories and photographs and newspaper and everything to do with that area of Dewsbury. And we did an incredible exhibition and put it in the local community centre, but it had hundreds and hundreds of visitors to it because it was just an amazing story. And so that's just one tiny bit of Kirklees. I find that. Yeah, so it's history, landscape.
It's like Kirklees is a
everything.
Series of towns and villages, but I mean the towns are series of villages as well, aren't they?
They've all got their own identity,
distinct identities in the different neighbourhoods. And I think one of the privileges that we've had in our work is being able to work in really different neighbourhoods side by side and making those meetings between people that wouldn't normally meet, and we wouldn't normally meet them. So it's a bit like being a creative artist in this kind of work is a bit like having a wonderful passport. Privilege to be able to share other people's lives that you would never meet in your daily life, across classes, across different races, across different ages and backgrounds, and landscapes. So it's all fascinating. Yes.
I think we like Kirklees, do you?
You've sold everybody. Everyone's going to be moving out of Leeds now.
I didn't like the weather this morning. I was on the train from Colne Valley to Leeds, and I just couldn't walk in the rain and the wind. By the time I got to Leeds, it was quite calm. So today,
Not so much the weather then. Is that the thing that you would choose for something perhaps that's not so great?
Oh, but when it is
no,
lovely,
when the autumn sunshine's beautiful.
It's been
when it
gorgeous.
happens. Yes.
It has been.
I'm
gorgeous.
constantly taking pictures. Yeah, no, it is. Just had a rough morning.
And if you did have to choose something that you don't think is so brilliant, what would you go for?
Oh, not so brilliant.
Well, I think for me, obviously, it's because I also work in Leeds. So one of the things that I've found, and I know people are working very hard to do this, but what's happened to Huddersfield Town Centre and Dewsbury Town Centre, where the life's kind of been taken out of it, and great efforts are being made to put that life back in. But we've only lived here, I don't know how long we lived here, about
18, 19 years.
No, we've lived here a lot longer than
no,
that.
we haven't. That's the house.
That's just this house.
Sorry.
30 odd years, 35 years. And to see that change has been a bit upsetting, I'd say. I mean, it's like I have to have a real reason to go into Huddersfield for some event or something, or to go to the theatre. There's not really a reason to go in and be there and to be with the shops.
That's a real shame.
And that's both Huddersfield
really
and
sad.
Dewsbury. I mean, I'd say great efforts are being made to turn that around, but it's so difficult when Manchester and Leeds are kind of shopping cities and cultural cities and things like that. These big towns, which were so proud and had so much tradition and still do in many ways of music and the arts and architecture and everything, to sort of, it's like the life, some of the sort of daily life has been sucked out of the centres of these places. Yeah. I mean, even in the short time that we've lived in Kirklees, we've seen when we arrived, which was not 19 years ago, it was about 36 years ago, I think, then the textile mills were still working just about in the Colne Valley where we live, and we used to see the British Asian workers coming from the night shift at the bus stops as we travelled to work in Huddersfield, and we could still smell the ammonia and the wool and things like that. I'm not saying that's good, but then we saw the chemical industry being very important, and it still is important, but again, nothing like as important as it was now. And now the big industry in Leeds and Huddersfield is education. It's the sheer number of students at the universities, which is great in that it brings international people and it brings new housing into the town and all that sort of thing. But it's a totally different kind of life. I just wish we could have that life with the students, but as well with the town centres pulling people in and being more vibrant and people being less isolated, because it was a way of people from different backgrounds mixing more readily, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
People will try really hard. They are, but
yeah.
And if somebody had been a resident of Kirklees for a very long time, would you be able to tell them about something that you would consider to be a hidden gem?
Oh, hidden gem.
Well, I mean, there's lots, really, aren't there? Yeah. I mean, it's and things are being restored, like the shopping arcade in the middle of Dewsbury, which was sort of dying on its feet and is now having lots of money spent on it, which is clearly a Victorian hidden gem there. Mm-hmm. But also you can create hidden gems, because we've been working in Dewsbury a long time and Thornhill and that area. Quite a long time ago, we were responsible for planting thousands of trees on the mountain, which is between over Thornhill Lees, to create a new woodland. And I've been back to it a few times, and it's a really thick woodland. I can't believe that these little bits of stick on a horrible rainy day on the hillside is now this amazing. Actually, we see that woodland from where we work with 6 Million Plus at Brigantia on the 5th floor of Empire House, which is where we're making our stuff. So I look through the sunshine and beyond the town hall tower, and I can see that woodland. And when I was working there first, there were no trees there. It was just bare land, really, not being used for anything. So to see that's a kind of, I mean, it's quite dark wood, but I actually quite like dark woods.
Well, it's just great to be able to see something that you actually, you had a house.
I never imagined that those little sticks would grow, what to me seems so quickly, into big trees. Of course, it's not that quickly because I've been here a long time, but to me, they were little sticks yesterday. Yeah.
But you do bump into people, don't you? Remember that project?
Yeah.
It was called Greening the Mountain. And people who were children or young people say, "Oh, do you know? Oh, yeah, remember when we planted all those trees and we did some arts work, and look at it now." So that's nice.
It's great for all the community to have that memory of doing all that together as well,
Exactly.
and still be able to see it.
Yeah.
And I always ask guests if they have a song by a local band or artist that they would like to feature. Can you tell me about what you've chosen?
Well, I don't know which one you're going to play, Hazel, because we put together a few, didn't we?
You did, and they're all great, but I particularly liked Sbrenica.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Well, this is Sanya Chin, who's a Bosnian musician and singer. I say Bosnian. She was a refugee herself, a child, when they left Bosnia, and I think she lived in Austria for quite a long time, and she studied music there. Now she's here in the UK, and we asked her if she'd do an arrangement of this song, so that we could teach local children to sing it. Non-Bosnian children, I have to say, but they were singing in Bosnian, and it was for a remembrance event, remembering Srebrenica in Bosnia. And she did it so beautifully. She created a soundtrack of herself, because this was, again, during where we couldn't do anything in school. So she created the soundtrack with herself singing for the children to learn the song. She also did a little demonstration video. It was lovely as well for them, so they could see her and see what she looked like, and she talked them through the song. And they learnt it beautifully, and sang it live outside in Bradford and then in Huddersfield as well. But I just think that the track of her singing is rather lovely.
It really is, yeah. Yes, it is. Thank you so very much, Kim and Adam, for coming to talk to me. It's been great to hear about everything that you're up to. I'll put lots of links in the podcast notes, and hopefully as many people as possible can come along and see the Weeping Sisters.
Yeah.
Put your anorak on, or put your umbrella if you need.
Unless it's windy. Don't bring your umbrella if it's windy.
So, thanks very much,
Hazel. Thank you very much, Hazel. It's been lovely to talk to you.
You too. Thank you so much. I really loved listening to all of the fantastic work that Kim and Adam Strickson are doing with 6 Million Plus, and I would love to go and see the Weeping Sisters this weekend, but I can't, unfortunately. But I will definitely be checking out their website, which you can also do in the links. You can watch the videos that Adam talked about. Yeah, have a look and see what you think. Go along if you can. Let me know if you do go. And the song that they chose to feature is Sbrenica by the Bosnian singer Sanya Chin. It's a really hauntingly beautiful song, and it's really wonderfully expressed, and it's not very often you get to listen to a song in Bosnian. So yeah, have a listen. Enjoy your week, Leeds, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.
Strap in and enjoy the ride. Light on with Hazel as your guide. Light on, strap in, enjoy the ride. Light on with Hazel as your guide. Light on, strap in, enjoy the ride. Light on with Hazel as your guide. Light on, strap in, enjoy the ride. Light on with Hazel as your guide. Light on.
Mother Michael, I am still dreaming of you. Sister, brother, I still dream about you every night. You're not here, you're not here, you're not here. Where are you, where are you, where are you? I see you everywhere I go. Mother, Father, I still dream about you every night. You're not here, you're not here, you're not here. Where are you, where are you, where are you? I see you everywhere I go. Mother, Michael, Father, Oce, why are you not here?